Hi guys, and welcome back to ChristianCasts, where I build baits so you don't have to. Today is going to be something really exciting. I am really happy. It's the first time that I can actually provide you guys with something that you can benefit of as well. I actually reached out to GAAHLERI, and most of you know I use their airbrushes for all my builds and for all the lure painting tutorials that I create. And I already made a video about their airbrushes. If you haven't seen that, I'll pop one up here or there. And I'm really excited to announce that I have actually joined their affiliate program, so I can actually provide a coupon code that you guys can get 10% off of your purchase. And I actually got sent a new product to test, so we'll do a little bit of a unboxing and comparison towards the old airbrush I've got, and there's a new one waiting in here for me for our lure paints, and I'm really excited. It's something a little bit finer and we can do a lot of detail work with it, so I'll set you guys up straight away. If you're interested in the coupon code, it is ChristianCasts. I'll pop it down and there's a referral link that you guys can click on. It really helps out the channel and what I'm actually doing here. And the coupon code is ChristianCasts, so Christian spelled C big and then together with casts and also the C big. But I'll pop all the informations in the bottom of the description so you guys can check that out if you're interested in a high quality airbrush. And I'll get into the review and the comparison and everything, and I'll show you guys what I'm talking about, and I'll set you guys up and we'll get started straight away. So see you soon on the desk. So as you guys can see, we've got our box, and I've also prepared my old airbrush. It is the GAAHLERI 39. I cleaned it completely because I would like to do a comparison spray test today as well, and look at the conus that we create with the airbrush itself and do a water spray test. I've prepared, that's why I've actually got this black lining behind and as well on my desk, because I'll be setting the camera up differently, and I'll just compare how the sprays, if we see any differences, and we'll go into that then in the next steps. So I'll get into the box straight away. We've got this pull tab, so I don't need a knife today, and we have got our product right there. I'll put the box to the side and get this out. So you see I've got the Mobius airbrush 0.2. I have got a 0.3 needle in here. I think I would have to look, but I'll get into that anyway. Once we compare them, we'll just go ahead and check what we've got in the box itself. So the first thing is just gonna be our airbrush. We've got all the information. Really cool to see they are on pretty much every platform on social media, and you can always reach out to them. They're very helpful, what I've noticed until now. They also show you all the details if you are freshly into airbrushing. And another thing I really enjoy, it is the same with my older version, is that you've got a explosion drawing of the airbrush that you have in the box, and it really helps once you take it apart. You can look at all the parts. If something is damaged, you can actually check what part is damaged, and you can head over to their webpage and see if you can get spare parts. So that is quite helpful. I just always like it because also when cleaning the airbrush and you take everything apart, there's more things going on than you actually think at the beginning, and this is pretty much a way how you can put it back together, and you don't need any other YouTube tutorial or anything. So as you see, we have got some spare O-rings, ones for the nozzle itself, so between the nozzle and the airbrush main body. And I think the second one is from the nozzle cap, or no, actually it isn't. It is the O-ring between I'm not too sure. We'll have to look up which O-ring we actually got with separately, but it's really cool. You've got two sets in case something gets damaged or starts leaking. You can always put them in. And then we've already got our airbrush. It is really cool. We straight away see that it is a little bit different to the one that we have had until now. You've got this swirly part. You've got this is pretty much the same. You can set the pullback from your airbrush trigger for consistent lines. You've got the quick fit valve straight away on. One of the big differences between these two, what straight away stands out, is you have this little set screw, which we will be testing today as well. It is actually a air control knob, so you can actually set the airflow on your paints on the airbrush, which is really nice. You normally always have to play around on the compressor, turn the pressure back, turn it up, depending on the paint that you're using and the viscosity. So it always depends. You have to play around a little bit, and this helps for on-the-fly change. So that is a really nice thing to have. And then you've got your cap. We won't be needing that. And then you have got a quite small paint holder right here, which we don't mind because I anyway tend to overfill my cups, my paint cups, and I always end up pouring back or discarding of the paint. So maybe this helps me to go a bit sparingly with the airbrush paints. We won't be using this. What I really find cool as well is it is a textured grip. You have a separate screw right here that you can set the tension of your trigger, and then you've got through this cutout right here, you've got a very easy access to those. So that is quite cool. We'll straight away hang it onto the compressor and just feel. It is a double action airbrush, so I still am gonna play around with this setting, and once we have got everything ready, I'll get you guys back and we'll go into a little bit of detail of taking it apart. Yeah, pretty much. So I'll get you guys back once I've put it to the tension that I want, and we will start the comparison in a moment. So my main thoughts now are we're gonna check the quick start guide. You actually see the quick fit, where you should put the paint, how to start airbrushing, quick adjustments that you can do, and that is where they actually show you wrong airbrush. Where to twist, what you actually set differently, the problems you have with different paints if you thin them too much, or if they are too thick, that you get splots, or that you get lines while spraying if it's too thin. This is really a helpful guide for once you get into airbrushing for the first time. It's really cool. You also see where you should add lube on a airbrush, and just a quite handy starter manual for getting into airbrushing itself. And then with the first airbrush I bought, I actually wasn't too sure if I'm going to be following this bait building hobby itself. So I actually was looking for a budget airbrush, and I didn't want something that has got a lot of plastic parts, or I wanted a full metal build. So I actually found this on Amazon, and there was a sale on it at the moment, so I ended up getting it really for a steal. And I got a separate needle for rougher sprays. It's a 0.5, so if you've got bigger builds, and then you get a 0.35 needle built in the airbrush already once it comes. And I really enjoyed it. I've been using it a lot. We'll go into some main differences between the two that I just have noticed straight away from the start, which also help with cleaning and actually just seeing how things go. So you actually see the two different ways they are built up, and you actually see that on this airbrush you can't change the trigger tension yourself easily unless you take it apart, you look at the spring, you do a little bit of tweaking. But that is something really cool that I straight away saw, that you can actually manually set this if you want to have a lighter pull on the trigger or a harder pull on the trigger. You've also got a little window right here that shows you if something is wrong up right here. So you see if there is a paint backflow right here, which you actually don't see in a airbrush like this. It is quite a lot lighter. But one of the things that I now just noticed while taking this one apart, I'll go ahead and put this off in where it should be. So we'll go ahead and take off this back part first, and we'll also straight away, there's no paint in the airbrush, so we'll pull the needle back through the end right here. And then there's one thing that I find a little bit tricky on the older airbrush of mine. You can actually remove the trigger. So I'll go ahead and do this on this side as well. So we'll take off the tail, pull out the needle, and now we'll pull out this trigger. So as you guys can see, the trigger format is quite different, because on my older airbrush you actually have this pin, and this pin can be a little bit tricky to put back in. You pull back this spring, make sure that you actually find the hole where the trigger goes, where it pushes down on the airflow valve. And as you see, it is not the easiest. Right, I need to see that a little bit better. So as you see, it isn't the easiest, and I'll demonstrate it as well on the other airbrush. There we go. So we found the hole, we got it back in. So that's something that cost a little bit more time, and I just found it a bit tricky, if I'm honest. Where this airbrush, you pull back and you take your trigger, place it in, and that's it. So that's something that you can keep in mind when taking it apart. This is actually quite a lot easier to place the trigger back in. You've got more options to see if something is going wrong on the airbrush. You can set the airflow directly on the airbrush. That means if you have got your compressor set to a certain amount of pressure, you can do fine tuning right here, which isn't possible here. So you would have to change the pressure on the compressor itself, or change the paint and put some thinner in, add some thinner, or put some more paint in to get the perfect thickness. So that's just a quite cool little detail as well. And now I'll put these back together that they are ready to spray, and we'll go and look at how the difference is. I'll put in some water and we'll look with the cap, with the A cap, without the A cap, what the difference is between the 0.2 and the 0.35, and then we'll just go ahead, do some sprays, also add some paint, and then I'll do some airbrush tutorials as well with this one to just see how it performs, if I just enjoy it as much, but I'm pretty sure through its features it will be quite cool to use as well, and then we'll see how it goes from there. I actually forgot to mention another difference between the two. If you take off this cap and you look at the nozzle itself, if it focuses and I don't lose it. So the spray nozzle on my old airbrush looks like this. It isn't the easiest part to clean because it's very fine and very small, and you really have to watch what you're doing, and that is one thing I now enjoy to see that they have changed on this airbrush, that if you take this off, you actually see the nozzle itself is a longer chamber. I think they optimized the paint flow itself. If it focuses, I don't know if you pick up on the camera, it's got this slight swirl, and it is a bigger part, a little bit easier to clean. I'll do a separate cleaning video of the airbrush itself in the future, so you can really, it's quite cool. It is, you don't have to screw anything apart. By some cheaper airbrushes, you actually have to screw the airbrush nozzle itself off of the airbrush, and you've got very small and fine threads that tend to break and are not ideal. And if you're a bit rougher, like myself, in taking it apart and stuff, something like this is a bit easier. So we'll make sure the nozzle is at the front and we don't have any backflow into the paint cap, and we'll put on this end again. Most of you anyway know I am still actually new into airbrushing itself. It's a lot of learning by doing. That's why I was actually surprised as well that they were really quite happy, and also very supportive of me reaching out to them, and it was no problem at all. They have got really a lot of artists that work with their airbrushes. If you check out their social media, there is some amazing work. I was surprised myself because pretty much we just do some bait builds and some airbrushing tutorials, and I wouldn't say that that's anything too special, but it was really cool to see what other people do as well with these airbrushes. So you can head over and check that out maybe as well, get inspired, because it's not only bait building that might target these airbrushes. You can do a lot of things with them. So yeah, now we'll just go ahead. I'll put in some water. I'll set you guys up a little bit different, that I can show you guys how they spray with the cap, without the cap, what happens when I change the air pressure over this valve. So as you might see, I put some water into my old airbrush, and we're going to go ahead and see that we focus. And once we pull back the trigger, you see there's a little bit of airflow, and as you pull back more and more, you get a thicker flow. I'll take off the cap and show you guys how it looks without out the cap because I find it really cool to actually see how the airbrush itself works. And you can see there is already a little bit of paint flow right there with just minimal pullback on the trigger. And as more you pull back, the more flow you get. So this is just a nice demonstration of the cone of a airbrush, because you can keep that in mind once airbrushing yourself, that the paint itself, it is like a cone. The most focused point is right at the top of the needle if you watch. So that is the very fine setting, and you see that back here you get a little bit of a thicker, and it is empty. So now we'll do the same with the Mobius, and we'll try and see if we can see a difference. So now we have got our new airbrush ready. I have added some water, and we'll see that it focuses nicely, and you see there is a minimal paint flow there already, and as more as you pull back, the more you get the paint cone. So now we'll take off the cap as well and just look at the needle itself, like that. And you see this is really just a minimal pullback, and you slightly see a water flow. So that is quite cool. I'm pretty sure that we will be able to make some nice details with it, and we'll go ahead and see how it performs. I'm really interested to also see we've got this valve open completely. So I'll go ahead now and twist it in, and you see there is no airflow at all. So now we will start adding a little bit, and you see how I'll pull back completely. So I'll pull the trigger completely back, and there is no air. We'll start adding, and you slowly start to see that once we turn this to a certain level, we will start getting a spraying cone, or not, because there is no water in anymore. So we'll go ahead, add some more water and do the same thing again. So I'll go ahead and turn this in completely, and we will pull back and start adding airflow. So you see you can actually really change this very well, and that's just something handy to keep in mind, that you don't have to watch as much. I would say you still have to keep in mind that with the paint thinner and everything, what you do, and watch that of course, but you still have the option to turn up the compressor to a higher pressure and actually change the settings over the screw. So that is really cool. I'll set you guys up, and there is one thing I actually also forgot to mention. There is a special coating, they say, on this cup, so it should be easy to clean afterwards, but we'll see along the way how the cleaning process is of this airbrush itself. And now I'll get you guys back for a outro, and then I'll see which types of baits we'll be creating with this airbrush in the next weeks. Hi guys, and welcome to the outro. So I showed you a little bit of the differences between the old airbrush that I've got and the new one, and we'll be taking this and actually using it on the next bait builds. I've got a lot planned already. If you've been following, I've been getting a little bit into soft baits, making my own molds, and if you haven't seen one of the last videos, I actually casted my first soft bait in a mold that I 3D printed myself. I've also been going into molding design and also just seeing how to efficiently produce a 3D printed mold, but there'll be videos coming to that as well because I want to go into detail a little bit more on that aspect, because the first mold I actually made, as most of you or some of you maybe know, was this one, and I wasn't happy with the centering pins. There was quite a lot of warpage, and we had a little bit of leakage also during the casting process. It didn't go as planned. As you see, there's always a little bit of gaps which you can play around with. That is due to the printing with PLA. And I actually already prepared for upcoming videos, if you are interested, a second mold version, and it's going to be a different type of soft bait because I didn't like the old design that much. If you saw the video, you anyway know why. And I actually printed this in PETG and had a lot less warpage. I ironed the surfaces of the 3D print itself, playing around a little bit with the settings to get a cleaner surface, that there's not as much work to do once you have got your 3D print. But as I was saying, we'll go into that anyway in detail in the other videos. And the next video, due to having a new airbrush, I've also got a new 3D printed lure that I'm going to be airbrushing. I actually prepared this one for a upcoming video already. It's going to be a little bit of a top heavy lipless crankbait. So we'll go ahead, play around a little bit, test the airbrush straight away. I might do a video on a long-term review once we've done a lot of baits with it and I know how it sprays. So this was a little bit of first impressions, things that I straight away noticed that are different, and also a way that if you want to get into bait building yourself, you can actually head over, you can get a little bit of a discount and also help out the channel with using my referral link and the code, and then there's nothing to stop you of starting your own baits and designs. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I want to thank you as well a lot, because I wouldn't be able to do things like this without you guys sticking around watching my videos, and I wish you guys a great one. Keep on fishing, and we'll see each other next week for a bait build. It's going to be an airbrushing tutorial, so keep tuned. Cheers.